we're doing. From the far-flung reaches of the YouTube galaxy, it's the Outer Rim.
Just like looking at our pose, I'm just like, my God.
Oh yeah,
here we are. We've done it. We're
trying to be fancy.
I look at all the other people who make podcasts, and you see their thumbnails, and they're always like, "Look at me, how serious I am. Look at me on my backwards baseball cap. Looking like I got so much important shit to say." And now I'm one of them. Yeah. Oh no, I've become. Yeah, whatever.
We got to do branding, folks. We're still, not our forte, but we're working to make it happen for you.
It's that pose. I mean, I guess it's better than like, what am I like? Go.
Honestly, it makes me think of the Mythbusters pose. That's all I see whenever I do that. I'm like, great.
Any of those like ghost hunters and stuff where it's like they're looking so serious, but if you watch one of their stupid shows, it's like the most ridiculous jerk offs in the world. But on the cover of their DVDs, or when you go to watch it on Hulu or whatever, and you see their images that they put up, and it's like, ooh, look at how tough these ghost hunters are. Anyway.
Yeah, you're not going to see that from us, folks.
Yeah, so welcome everybody back to the Outer Rim podcast. My name is Rob Stone. I have a little channel called Smirking Gun and Smirking Gun Classics and Smirking Gun Reviews Comics and Smirking Gun Plays. That I only put stuff on the Smirking Gun Plays one because I want to put all the game streams I have over there so my video count isn't more ridiculous than it already is. But yeah, Smirking Gun, where over there I talk Critical Role and play games and talk TV and movies. And over here, nope.
Yeah, right over this there. Way. That's me. I'm Darrin Jakes. I'm from D's Reviews and many other places. But yeah, as you can see, this is our moving on from pulp culture show discussion to a little bit bigger stuff. And in fact, today is the No King's Day protest as we are recording this. So I just came back. Get this. I can't do that backwards. Thanks.
Yeah, this is being recorded on October 18th, 2025, No King's Day. I was at work.
Normally, I would be at work also, but I didn't have any appointments today, so I got a chance to walk down to our local place and join a pretty good-sized protest. Really nice, really good. Everybody just having fun. Some wonderful signs. I mean, some real imaginative stuff. People were there. We had frogs. We had dinosaurs. We had Princess Leia was running around with the giant resist, which I totally loved. Old people, young people, just everyone showing up. Very positive. A lot of American flags too. Again, this is not an anti-America day. America is a democracy. Supposedly, that's what we've been historically. And as I grew up, it was a nation of immigrants. Our diversity is what made us stronger. And so I think it was really nice to go out and chat with just a bunch of people that were there to just unite and say, hey, we're not going to bend down to some fascist tyrant.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to like really look at any of the major stuff that happened today yet. I work 40 hours a week, and like we were just discussing, when you don't get paid for your vacation, you kind of have to go to work, and you can't just skip out to run to a protest, even though you really want to be there. That's what sucks, man, is when you really want to just be like, I should just skip work and run to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't have a job. And that's one of those things that, I mean, it's interesting to talk about that, where it's like, at some point, is it going to get so bad that I'm going to be willing to walk off my job? Like, what would be that breaking point where I'm like, sorry, folks, but we might not even have a job tomorrow. So But until then, I feel kind of like a poser a little bit, like sitting here going, what were the No King's Day protests like?
But that's what I
I
mean, that's one of the problems. It's like, to me, that's one of the reasons why having election day, for instance, on a Tuesday is so problematic, because most people have to work. It's not a holiday. Things aren't forcibly closed. So people have to choose, do I work or do I vote? And when you have like giant pushes against mail-in balloting for people that can't afford to take the day off, or their polling place gets very busy and they can't afford to stay in line for hours and work and take care of their family. This is all a way to suppress people's votes, to exclude participation in our democracy. I can get that word, in our democracy. Um, and financially, I think that's a huge thing for us. I think one of the downsides of America as it is from an economic standpoint is we all live paycheck to paycheck. Got to work. Can't afford to take time off. I also don't get much. I don't get vacation time. So if I'm off, I don't get paid. And who can afford that?
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of people that there are people that don't have our problem.
Mm-hmm.
And to those people, I would say, like, because I think the better somebody's doing economically, it's the real danger is seeing people as falling into that, seeing people as less than.
Sure. Commodities as opposed to individuals. Yeah.
There is still that kind of, like, around here, a few areas where you could tell when somebody is just not as concerned. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't touch me, and it's just like thinking it will eventually get to you. It gets to everyone. So anyway, speaking of, it gets to everyone. I mean, I don't know how many I've only saw thumbnails of the protests. It doesn't look like anybody's being assaulted by National Guardsmen or military, like the worry was going into this, right? That they were declaring basically everybody Antifa. And
right.
Anybody who disagrees with us, protesters especially, are going to be dealt with. And I think maybe that was just a scare tactic for No King's Day, like to try to see how many people they could get to flinch. I mean, that's one of the big tactics is to keep scaring us into keeping quiet.
Right.
And maybe that's what they were trying. But I really did have a fear about today. And some of it is brought on by other people that make content who are like, look out, they're coming for you. And I mean people that are on the right side of history are out there telling people they're coming, they're going to beat your ass on Saturday. It's like, wow, man. Like,
well, look, I'm still on Twitter, and yes, I will continue to just call it Twitter, which is a right-wing hellscape, to be perfectly honest.
Oh yeah. I'm gone from that. Like, I still have an account, I think, but I am gone.
Yeah. And it's kind of unhealthy. I like to do it because I do like to get kind of a wide berth of information and sources and stuff. And there is nothing like seeing the Speaker of the House doing multiple posts on this anti-America Day that is run by Antifa and George Soros and all of this stuff. So, and then you're followed up with posts from Stephen Miller and the White House and Homeland Security that are saying, we're going to use forces to go up against and to investigate everybody that stands up against this. And this is anti-American. And, I was very lucky that there was no ICE in Pasadena. Okay. It's not, it's not really that type of neighborhood. So for a gathering, we were actually kind of very safe in that sense. But I do know that there are other places that will be running and potentially running into issues. And I haven't had a time to look over social media or the news since I got home, which was like 20 minutes ago, to see what else is going on. But I think that there's, a lot of people were happy to get their pictures taken. And a lot of other people had their signs in front of their faces, or they had masks on. because there was concern that they
Hey
might be going
man,
through
if they
social
can
media.
wear masks, we can wear masks too.
Yeah.
It's funny that they'll put on masks for this, but then you try to tell them to put on a mask to save their lives, and they'll tell you that potentially save their life anyway. Like
What doctors do in surgery to
Yeah.
protect against disease.
Yeah. I don't want you to know who I am because you might dox me, but don't you dare put a vaccine anywhere near me. I'll rip this thing up. Maybe that's what they should do to get them to take their masks off, is come at them with Johnson & Johnson COVID tests. Here we come. We're coming at you.
Just need a nostril test.
Take my mask off quick.
Hey, look,
So
we have an administration that is firing scientists. JPL just down the street from me, just mass layoffs. The Jet Propulsion Laboratory, massive layoffs, and they're hiring ICE agents. That, to me, says all you need to know about this current administration.
Dum 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 dum. So now that we've kind of eased and had our little hi everybody, we've got so many different topics that we've been trying to. We could get a dartboard and do it like that, but there were several things that we were kicking around of what to talk about for this would be our 4th episode of the podcast. And we landed on what you can see in the title, which is legacy. What does that mean? What are we talking about? Well, what we're talking about is if you think about history, and you think about let's say a specific time in history, like World War II, and how I'll even narrow it down even further. World War II, Germany, and you're just a regular old German person, right? You have your opinions. You might not have as strong of opinions. You're just out there working your land, or maybe you live in a city and you're trying to go to school or just go to your job, or you have your own business. And then somebody, you don't really, maybe you don't like how things went for you after you lost the First World War, or one of the groups that lost the First World War. It was a world war, so a bunch of people that were involved in that did not get what they wanted. And your country's maybe not doing as well as you wish it was. And suddenly you guys have this guy who starts to rise to power, telling people what they want to hear. That such and such is to blame, and such and such is to blame, and this person's to blame, and this kind of person's to blame. It's not you. It's not our system that we have. It's the mentally ill, the handicapped, the people who don't believe the same as us. And maybe you decide to maybe you decide to follow that group. Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't officially follow that group of people into what became Nazi Germany. Maybe you were somebody who just sat on the sidelines and was just trying to keep your head down during the whole thing. Maybe you still sided with them, but you didn't want to say you sided with them. Maybe, you just went along to get along. If somebody came by to check on you or look for places, you opened your door and you said, come on in and check for Jews. And then your country loses that war. No matter what side you're on, people are going to look at you a certain way. You're going to be remembered. This area, this group of people, where you came from, where this started. You're going to have people say, are you a Nazi? Were you a Nazi? How far did it go with you? And if you're a Nazi, and you try to go back into your life, and say you go back to a place that maybe they didn't like what was going on there, and you've got to try to integrate yourself back into a world that really does not want you anymore. And you have to think about that after the fact, because this is now your legacy. This is how you're going to be remembered, by the decisions and the choices that you make in this situation. Now, there's legacy is not just this extreme. Legacy can just be any old person who just lives their life, and you have hopes and you have dreams, and for some reason or another, you just die before you did anything. Say you died in the 90s when less was going on, right? There were no, like, if you weren't in the military and you weren't involved in anything untowards, and you just drifted away, and then you have, like, what I like to call, what Tallis and Jaffe calls, the three deaths, right? There's the actual physical death, the death that you have when the last person who knew you died, and the last time your name is ever uttered by someone else that sees something that you did, or hey, so and so, like, if you wrote an article or you made a YouTube video or a movie or whatever, and the last time that anyone ever says your name is the third death, and that's your legacy, right? So whether you're just some Joe Schmo who, or maybe you did everything, maybe you became a real estate tycoon and a university creator and a guy who hawks steaks, and maybe you got to go on a reality show and pretend to fire people and talk crap about Rosie O'Donnell, and then somehow became president, not once, but twice, after losing in the middle. And the second time you get elected, you decide that you're going to take it out on every single person responsible for keeping you out that second time. And you're going to take it out on not just the people who didn't vote for you, but the people who did, who couldn't carry you across the finish line, because it's their fault that not enough of them voted for you. And now you've decided to burn the whole thing down before you die. That's another way to look at a legacy. Or maybe you're a person who's sitting online, tapping on your keyboard, watching the world go by you, but you have a lot to say about everything and everyone, and you don't have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or what have you, and you decide to make your whole life making other people miserable online, where you sit anonymously and you might not even believe in what you're saying. And people are going to remember you. That's how people, like, it feels like, like this has been, history has been full of this. Everybody has a legacy, whether it's a lack of one, or you're remembered fondly, or history forgets some of the things that you did. Conveniently, after a certain amount of time, we might not know really what that person was really like. Do we really know what some carpenter a million years ago was really like? Not really. Somebody wrote it in a book, and then that book got translated by a bunch of other people, and who knows if they're telling the truth. So the point of this whole thing is legacy, and what lengths people will do to establish their place in history. So I just ranted a lot.
Just a few ideas there.
Yeah.
Well, no, but I mean, to me, it makes a lot of sense for a couple of things, and to me, there's a larger thing that I would want to go in, but let's talk about the kind of personal, because that's sort of what we're starting off at here. Because I think that there are some people that don't really care how history remembers them, and there's some that, obviously do, or feel that they need to make some mark, so they've got to build a monument, or they've got to become president, or they've got to make 641 YouTube videos that hopefully people will watch. It's something that at least I can say for myself, I can easily say in the second half of my life right now. I've got the gray and the whiskers, and how I was thought of never really came to me. I was always focused kind of more on the now. But now that I have a family, and I've got a kid, and I become more aware of that I will be passing, and what is the world that I'm leaving to my kid? What are the responsibilities? What are the obligations? Um, I remember when Earth Day was all happening when I was a young teenager, and we were like, Earth Day, man, what the heck? We'll do the thing and we'll recycle and we'll whatever. And eventually you get into it and you start to realize as you get older, you think of the bigger stuff. And now, especially when I have a kid, I remember what weather was like when I was younger. And I know what weather's like now. And I'm going to tell you folks, it's a heck of a lot worse on average across the board. There's measurements you can take of ocean temperatures and currents and all sorts of things. And you know what? Those are all warmer. Those are changing. That's kind of messed up. There is this cost to what we have been doing. And, I feel bad for my kid. I want to give them hope. I want to give them a positive view of what their tomorrow was going to be. But what is the legacy, not just of me, but even of my generation on what's going forward? And I mean, some people think of this all their lives. Some people grab that a little bit more as they get experience and knowledge and wisdom. Hopefully, at least a little bit of that stuff with them as they get older. Which kind of, to me, is what's so confusing when you have even of the older generation who has been in power and who has seen so much more than I have. And they think everything is going to be fine. I think they're insane. Or they're just objectively ignoring it because they're just focused on them and not tomorrow. And I think that's probably the biggest damage for any potential legacy is, do we care what we're leaving the next generation?
Yeah, the plan was for me to say, okay, and then, hey, Darrin, what did you like? What kind of legacy are you wanting to leave? Like for yourself personally, and then thankfully you just did it and you said it, because that helps me out. Because I mean, when I look at myself,
yeah,
I'm not married, never been married, never probably will get married, and that's not like a play the violins kind of thing. I'm fine.
sure.
I'm fine with it. No kids. I just don't really, I don't need to go to, I don't really want kids. I am a kid. I am a selfish person in that way. I know that I'm an army of me, and I like it like that. But, and I have some family. Most of them are still in the cult of the Jehovah's Witnesses, so I don't know how much I can really call them family. We're related, right? But unless I go back to the church, I'm outcast.
Yeah.
I am tainted. I am what they would call an apostate. Which, I mean, I like. You know what? I mean, I like that. If I were to I would love to have that be like. That's there's a title in there for like my biography or autobiography.
Can you put it on a business card?
Yeah, I want to. That would be the apostate. See, some people look at that and go like, "Man, that sucks," but it's like, no, man, that's a brand. Like that is a real. Like, I stand by that. You damn right, I'm an apostate. Like, but what do I plan on? How, what's my legacy? What am I? And I didn't really think about it either. I mean, other than when I had all this pop culture knowledge in my head, all these things and feelings about things that I wanted to say. And that's one of the main reasons why I make YouTube videos. And I'm like, and I've started backing them up onto USB drives and stuff, like having my words somewhere, my thoughts, like for anybody that's like in future generations of my family, they might not be directly descended from me, my loins. They might not come, but my sister's got kids. Both my sisters have kids, and they'll have kids eventually, and they'll have kids, and and maybe even people that like in part of my family that also have kids that are like if they ever hear about their apostate uncle, they'll be like, who was this guy? And they could they could find my stuff, somebody could tell them, and they could hear from my own lips like what I thought about things, but then I think about, okay, what kind of person am I to other people?
Sure.
Because I know that I have not always been the best person. And I have left a swath of people that have been at least either annoyed, confused about who that guy was. What was his problem? Because, yeah, I had issues. I had a lot of issues. I still don't make the greatest first impression. So I leave behind, like people, how they see you can have this baseline look at who you are. And even though I'm not doing anything as memorable as, like, say, getting rid of free speech or something, I'm not telling a room full of generals that, no fatties.
Oh, jeez.
I'm not shooting puppies in the face because they were a little hard to train. I also don't wear a cross around my neck and then act opposite of what that cross means. But again, without letting myself off the hook, I've had a lot of things to think about of like, no matter what happens, there are people out there that are going to think of me in a negative way.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't do anything about that except for now try to, as I continue on this earthly journey, to show people who I really am and who I've become and get better and leave more people happy that they met me, and some people who didn't know anything about me that thought they did were like, wow, he's got more depth than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And to try to be just a person that people want to remember. Again, I can't change the past.
Right.
I can control my present and my future. And that's the kind of legacy I want to leave, is leave this world a better place than I found it, at least with my words and actions, and try to be better friends with people. And that's just part of being human and growth and progress and as a person, instead of saying and giving up and being like, well, fuck it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to be some incel and take my problems out on the world. And that's at least for me, and I would like to at least instill, like, because there's times where I think about like how like some of my like the kids in my family have seen me and go, God, I've got to leave something better than those memories.
Well, it's interesting that you put all that, because yeah, I have also made horrible decisions and stupid choices and selfish things that have hurt people. And as I've gotten older, think back probably more on those times than the happier times, which is, depressing unto itself, but just with levels of regret. Like, why would I do this? How could I apologize? How could I, and there's really nothing you can do. That impact is done. And there's many people that I would hope not to ever run in again. So, and others that certainly I would just, do nothing but apologize to them. But I often think of myself as three people in a way. Um, my past self, my current self, and my future self. Because our current self often gets very mad at our past self for the choices that they make. Those mistakes, those things, those like, hey, that's not who I am. And we feel that our current self has probably done a lot of work to try and change and overcome those things that we have done. But how often do we think about our future self? Because I often think about what I wish I had done in the past, and I will make choices that, as opposed to complaining about what my past self did, I think I'm going to do my future self a solid. And I'm going to try and take care of this situation. Or I'm going to try and stop drinking so many sodas and maybe drink more water. Or I'm going to go out and exercise and not sit on my butt and just watch TV all day, or whatever that it might be. I have no time to do all that. I wish that I did. But, but you get what I'm saying is that, and I think when we think about legacy, it's not just our future self, but our future people. Like you said, the family around you, those things. How do you want to be remembered? Well, if how you are now isn't how you want to remember, you are concerned about your legacy. That is a change that you want to try and do. So I often kind of think about that as these kind of three versions of myself and who can actually do something or change. And obviously that's it. Future me is the consequences of my choices now. I'm the only one that can make any choices there. And past me is, the road that I've come from. Because, and, in some ways, even that personal legacy can kind of just come from that, How do you want future you to look back on you right now?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Because I think about like where we are in our society right now, and it's like, I am who I am right now, but who's that guy going to be in? I could completely change in 6 months depending on what happens or less.
Oh, geez.
Every day we don't know what's going to bring tomorrow, what's going to happen tomorrow. Used to be, you just go to sleep, get up, go to work, whatever. Did it, little changes. Maybe you do something special this weekend. Maybe, maybe you do this or that. But or maybe in 3 years where, it's insert worst case scenario here. Because I'm not going to run down a series of Mad Max Fallout situations. I just mean,
hey,
and what will when
COVID,
when shit, if the shit goes down, you better be ready, as Cypress Hill says, right?
Yeah.
And so what kind of person am I going to be in that? And then when we get there and you look back, you're like, wow, I made this video telling everybody, hey, I just wanted to make, videos on YouTube and tell people, that the fucking Goonies was awesome. And then later on, I might be having to make a video on my phone in a ditch somewhere going, I gotta be quiet. I think they're near, look, everybody, we're trying to get some people out of the city,
dude, it could be days of futures past in a moment's notice. I mean, because look, it was for years and years and years. It was just like this slow change of time. And in the past 5 years, half decade, we've had both COVID and 6 months of Donald Trump. And seriously, 6 months ago, what does that self would have thought about this self right now? Or the guy in 2019 who didn't know crap about this oncoming, pandemic.
Oh, 2019.
It was so innocent.
And the thing is that was during Trump. And 2019 was one of my favorite years.
Yeah.
It was like so much good stuff happened on my channel, and things were like, I guess, the
words come
socially, I was doing so many things that I never thought were capable, and they were happening. And And now, like, yeah, we're still doing that, but like in 5 short years, like the whole landscape of things has changed. And it's crazy because, again, I feel like time's a weird soup.
Sure.
And it's just, can't even fathom. Like when I was saying, like I was looking at something about Howard Hughes and the Aviator came up, and I'm like, the Aviator is 21 years old. How what?
Oh,
Like that movie came out yesterday, didn't it?
stupid time.
So, yeah, and I look back at that guy. I feel like I am unrecognizable almost, except for the nerdy shit. And even then, I think I'm a better nerd now than I was then. So, yeah, the way that you're going to be remembered in the future. And it's why I find it so hard to understand how so many people are willing to overlook. I mean, look, because there are people that like villains don't think they're villains.
Sure.
Okay, we're just people. In fact, just calling people villains isn't right or fair. We're a bunch of people who make choices. Look, nobody's born a villain.
Sure.
Even the orange turd was not born a villain. Okay, he was just some kid who maybe had problems. No, not maybe. Definitely had some problems. But they were things that could have been overcome differently. You know what I mean? Like there was all sorts of ways things can shake out. So people make choices and then you become remembered as, oh, this is a bad guy. This is a bad lady. This is just a bad person. And some of those people know exactly who they are. They don't make apologies for it. We're all just ants. Elon Musk. And then there's people who don't believe in what they're saying. They don't, but they still don't see the forest through the trees, or for the trees, however that saying goes. That, like, here's an example, right?
Sure.
We'll bring this for people who watch YouTube. The grifters on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, you've never really talked about it that much. I think you mostly stay away from it.
Yeah, I try. I do.
But I'm aware of all these, not even all of them. You throw a rock at them now. I mean, there's just, YouTube is a very negative space. If you make positive content, you're probably, and you're not already, you hadn't started from the beginning, you're probably not getting a lot of views. Or you're a hack, or you stole your ideas from other people, which is also a hack.
Sure.
So that's just a different way of saying hack. Or you've always played it safe and you're still making the same shit you did on day one and you've never progressed as a content maker or as a person.
Sad.
And there's nothing hey, if that's what you want, is to just be the same schmo from A to B or A to Z from the beginning to the end. I was just this guy. Hey, everybody, it's your boy.
There is a certain comfort in that, I have to say, as a viewer.
And you
I get it.
You never took a side because it's your job. I just talk about the funny stuff. I just talk about whatever the fuck. But the grifters, all right, because there's plenty of them that we know on here. People like Nerdrotic, Critical Drinker, Geeks and Gamers, Eric July, Ryan Cannell, that human cock stain, the Quartering.
Yeah, see, I've never had an urge to click on any of those videos. I had a feeling
just the ones that pop in my head now. Because some people like go back and forth. Some days they're the hero, some days they're the villain. I'm so glad that I don't like associate with a lot of YouTubers that just spend their entire lives on YouTube and whatever. I mean, we spend a lot of time here, but like it's mostly to just talk about the things we love.
Sure.
And then, you know, some people watch it depending on what it is. But we get those guys, and some of them were legitimate critics of pop culture. They really were. Some of them really were. Whether they were good people, that doesn't matter. Some of them were always pieces of shit. Gary from New York. Some of them were just, like career criminals who just suddenly found who dealt drugs to kids and now are dealing different drugs to kids with their words. So, you know, you go from street drugs to street words. And you blame the system for, you know, not accepting you into their little club. A lot of these people turn out to be failures in getting into the thing they want to do. So then they take it out on the thing that they didn't get invited to. They didn't get invited to the club, whether you were a failed writer, actor, comedian, comic book shop owner, guy who wants to sell shitty, you know, like Born Identity books that somehow the studio doesn't pick up because you're a shitty writer, and the day of the Born Identity stuff kind of moved past. That fad went away, and now nobody's really making those movies anymore. So then you decide, well, because I didn't make it in said system, and that includes all the people from the Daily Wire. Look at that whole mess. That whole company is filled with people who are failed actors, failed comedians, failed writers, and now all they do is act like they know about shit because they went to college and they have a degree in assholery. But think about that. All these people, in some form or another, just about, are failures in the thing that they wanted so desperately to be a part of. And so when they're rejected, they decide to turn on that thing and lie to their audience to get them to hate that thing that they weren't allowed to be in. Even though they don't actually hate it, they're just butthurt because they couldn't join the club. And so now they lie to you every day for years now. It started regular like with Game of Thrones sucking at the end. And there were some legitimate gripes.
Sure.
But then Brie Larson says one thing, one sentence that sent ripples across the internet.
My
and more
masculinity.
specifically, it struck a chord with all the young men out there who, that's not me. If it's not you, then you don't have anything to say. You have nothing to worry about. If you take it to heart and you decide to make 7,000 videos about Brie Larson, it is about you. You are that person. You're not the person that you're saying you're not. You just can't admit it because somebody pointed it out to you. So now you lie, and these people lie for years about these things when they've even exposed their own grift. But that's your legacy. You get a bunch of money on YouTube lying to people, and you sit out there and you act like you're this awesome, awesome person when deep down you know that you're full of shit, and your money's the only thing to comfort you in the end, because these are the kind of people that all turn on each other, and they already have started to turn on each other. And at the end of the day, your legacy is that you lied, you knowingly lied about pop culture to make some money. And do you really think that this legacy, right, is something that's going to be remembered? Because the thing about tragedies, like real tragedy, like say the Hindenburg going down, and we all still will seek out that film of watching that thing burn, and the humanity, or 9/11. That's real tragedy. That's real things to remember from history. You guys lying on the internet is not something that somebody 50 years from now is going to look up. Brie Larson hate. So you've decided to make your legacy. This is what you think you're going to be remembered for. And you sold your soul, even though I don't believe in that, but you know what I mean. You sold your legacy for YouTube fame. And instead of being remembered fondly, you won't be remembered at all. After all is said and done, you won't even be a footnote in history when you could have actually made a better legacy for yourself by progressing as a human being and rising above the failures that you have and doing something better with it. So you didn't get to be a part of the club. Who cares? Make your own club that's not negative. Make your own comics. Make your own TV shows. Make your own movies. Take the money that you made, because these people make millions of dollars, and do something positive with it, rather than be these negative black holes who won't be remembered. Your legacy is no legacy. In fact, the only legacy will be, remember when these idiots spent their whole life talking crap because Brie Larson once said something, and then you decided to try to destroy a whole platform? And in the end, also, folks, those people hate you. Just like the people, the politicians that are trying, get you to vote for them, they hate you too. The billionaires, the millionaires that you want to be so desperately, they hate you. They all hate you. And they don't want you as part of their club either. And I can't fathom being that kind of person, that's so low, that's so empty, that is, you want that to be your legacy. What do you think about that kind of thing, Darrin? As I've yammered on about it.
Yeah, but I just want one thing. No, it's interesting when you talk about the people that wanted to be something but couldn't be. If you guys want to go into philosophy, there's a gentleman by the name of Peter Turchin. He's a Russian American.
I thought you were going to say Peter Thiel.
Oh God, no, But Turchin has mathematically developed this way of examining societies and measuring the fall of societies. More importantly, spoiler alert, things don't look good for us. But one of the main drives for these particular falls of civilizations is what he termed as counter elites. And these are basically the people who should be up at the top, but there wasn't room for them. And then they get bitter and angry, and they take over the drive of the other side. They rouse up the populace to basically be a counter to the main elites, and in doing so, tend to cause the entire system to fall down. That is the world we're living in here. I mean, you're right. Most of these YouTubers, they go in these scammy directions because they couldn't make it another way. So they aimed for the lowest bottom fruit. Donald Trump is notoriously been pushed out of elite circle his entire life. He thinks that he belongs there because he is rich, and some people considered him when he was younger not as horrific looking as I think he is now. But yeah, I mean, look, you've got a young, rich, good-looking-ish guy who's browsing around Manhattan, and he should be on top of things. I don't know, maybe choosing people like Jeffrey Epstein to be a friend doesn't help. But I think even that was one of those of people that are on the outside that are trying to find their way in. And that's what Trump was. I think Trump has always been angry that he's been pushed to the outside. And once he got this kind of was able to tap into this populist fervor, he used that to go against, the swamp and the old people and the stuff that are doing things the way that you want them to. He uses all of those words, all of those images that people want, because they're angry at a system that has not taken care of them, that is bullshit. But he is using a left-right argument to win a top-down war. It's not right versus left, folks. It's rich versus poor. And the rich are very few, and the poor is almost everybody else at this point. And it's only progressing further than that. So when we talk about legacy, these are people that believed that they were deserved a certain legacy, a certain place, and it was denied to them. And so in their anger, they will tear everything down to put themselves back on top. And it's just a destructive cycle. I mean, when we talk about even legacy on a larger standpoint, what will future generations look back at us and think of? You knew the climate was changing. You knew fossil fuels was a bad idea. But no, let's get rid of wind and solar because they're not sexy, and let's up coal because that's really smart. Okay, if you're farting in a closed room and you can't open the window, you don't start eating more beans, folks. You're not chowing on the broccoli and egg salad sandwich. I mean, and that's to be even from a larger standpoint is what will be left to them. What happens if the choices that we make now? Here, I'll throw a nice science one for you guys. The North Atlantic Current. The North Atlantic Current depends on a balance of salt and temperature in order to run. The water gets warm, it moves up north, it rises everything up, hits the cold area, drops down, salinity changes, and then that low current moves. And that is what moves the entire North Atlantic move. It's what keeps Great Britain warmer than it should be, because it's able to take that warm water from the Gulf of Mexico and bring it all up and circulate and allow ships to go. And that was how, ships got across the Atlantic back in the days and everything like that. Okay. If the temperature gets too much and you melt too much ice, which is what has happened, you change the salinity content. By changing the salinity content, you can disrupt, i.e., stop that current. There are already warning bells going off of that happening. If that stops, that will be catastrophic for weather patterns. Britain's going to freeze. Scotland's going to be even colder than it is. Weather patterns from a whole lot of change. I mean, we couldn't even guess at the horrificness that will change. We are watching that happen, and we are doing nothing to alter our behavior. And look, if you believe that climate change is a naturally occurring thing, okay. But maybe we should try and not push that process any more than we need to. We can make changes, and it's smart changes. I mean, we know how to get free electricity from the sun, from the wind. That doesn't require us to dig. And yes, maybe it's only good during windy days, or maybe it's only good during during the day when it's sunny, but that's at least half of a day every day. Why not do that? Boost that up. Personally, I think every house should have solar panels on it. You shouldn't be paying fucking a power plant in order to deliver you electricity. But the legacy of the people coming before us is the fact that we don't have those things. And the legacy that we will be leaving the people ahead of us is not this infrastructure, but something only worse, because we, as the present selves, are unwilling to make those changes. And maybe you and I will, and maybe everybody around you is willing to. But unfortunately, it's that small percentage of people up at the top that just don't want to see those sweet dollars change their rate of flow into their account. And their legacy, they're going to be dead with bank accounts that will then fuel their kids that will have no understanding of what it's like to not have money. and just make even worse and worse mistakes.
Yep. It's, again, like, you look back at when we started this, like World War II. What do people when people look back at World War II? You know, I think that there's a little bit, it's already softening too much. It's softened way too much already, where people are forgetting about certain things, where now people are trying to rewrite history. And
well, yeah, and you cut education, people don't know the past. If you don't know the past, you're going to repeat it because you haven't learned anything.
Yeah. And we also can't, you know, they're going to say, like, you knew, right? Because
right.
We still have the power. And yet they'll be right in saying, well, you could have done something, but you were too scared. And now here we are. Because
and even if it is too late, we can still try and minimize the damage. You know, that's something we could do. Let's give future selves, our future selves, a hand, and maybe like not let a giant rock crush them. Tell them to step 3 feet to the side. You know, you're still going to get hit with some little rocks, some pebbles and stuff, might break something, but you're not going to get smushed like an Acme cartoon.
Yep. It's scary because, I mean, I also think about, you know, when I'm gone, those people that they'll never get to hear us. You know, that's one of the good things about having this, but at the same time, it's still like, why did you let the billionaires control everything? Why did you vote this way? And even if you lost, why didn't you fight more for it? And that's the thing that just depresses the hell out of me, is like, it feels like everybody's waiting for some kind of go ahead to actually do something, but everybody's still too scared. So again, by the time, like you said, maybe it is too late. And by the time, you know, it goes too late and people do something, what's like, what would even be the, like, people would be like, well, because we might literally get stomped out because we waited too long. And then they'll just rewrite the history to say, because that's what they're trying, like, everything out of their mouths is to already try to establish a truth that isn't true yet.
Sure.
So that when they win, which is what they're in their brains, are they've already won. They have to say the lies. They have to say it enough times so that people will believe the lie. And then if they win, they can just say none of this happened.
Sure, the history is written by the victor, so let's just start writing it now.
And that's, you know, they're trying to create a legacy that doesn't exist yet. And that's why it's important for us to fight, so that this bullshit legacy that they're trying to create never happens. Think about it like time travel, folks.
Yeah, change the future today.
Yeah, it's yes, change the future today. We can't go back like Marty McFly and make sure that we still exist, but we can change our potential future from happening. Think Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
Again, except, you know, again, nobody can actually go back and and do that. We have to do it in the present.
Mm-hmm.
To make sure that,
to me, that's one of the fears is like, is our future, you know, selves or descendants going to be looking back going, didn't they know they were fighting for their lives?
Yeah.
Because that's what we think about Germany in 1934, 1935. How did you guys let this happen? I mean, why did you let them take over? Didn't you know they were going to do all these things?
And and every like apocalyptic movie, right, where it's after the fact, 30, 40, 50 years, and we're like, you know, they're in some desert. It's always some desert. Just about.
Cheap to film. Cheap to
And they
fill.
just say that the old world, the old ones, you know, they blackened the sky or they did this and they ignored that. And we see this and we treat it like it's just a story that can't happen.
But
And
it is.
there's got to be some fucking weirdos that are just like, I can't wait, man. I can't wait to finally have a reason to have all these guns.
Oh, yeah. Even the preppers, I think, are starting to freak out. Like, gee, man, I didn't think it was going to go like this. It's just going to be an instant societal collapse. It's the slow death that we're doing right now, and I think that's probably the hardest one for us to change, is because it's like, we're the frog slowly being boiled.
Hey, yeah, they brought that up in Critical Role this week. That same analogy. Yes, you throw a frog into a boiling pot of water, it's going to jump out. Put a frog in a cold bucket of water and slowly heat it up, and it won't know to get out until it's too late. I love it.
Frog sauna. No? Ah! Yeah.
Yeah, and so we've got a bunch of people that are, like willing to, their legacy is going to be that they were, like they don't see themselves. So these people could write history if they get what they want, and they will make themselves the heroes, and who will be around to say they're not?
Yeah.
Do we really want our future generations to believe that the villains were the heroes? Because I'm sure this is not the first time that history has been overtaken by awful people, and we just don't know that there were people out there that could have done something, and the entire framework of society changed because no one did anything until it was too late. Mm-hmm. Protesting is great. No King's Days are fantastic. You want your kids to be able to say, look, mommy and daddy out there, or grandma and grandpa were out there at No King's Day, and that's how we stopped him. Unfortunately, that is not how you stop them, though. That is just how you scare them. And then after you scare them, they're going to try other things. And it's when they try the other things that not only do you have to continue to fight on things like No King's Day, but you're going to have to be willing to risk a lot more to make sure that those kind of things happen less. Because the human beings, man, the one of the most almost worthless sayings at this point is, those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. We have been on a skipping record for centuries. Doesn't matter what area of the world you live in. We have all been making the same mistakes generation after generation after generation. And it would just really be nice is in this time period when we have so many technological advances, ways to hit the brakes on things, ways to still reverse the, think Superman going back in time to save Lois, man. We can still slow some of this stuff down. We can stop some things. And we can write the legacy that we actually want. And don't let other people write our history so that we're forgotten. And I can make 1 million videos. But if they win, none of those videos will mean shit. They'll delete everybody's archives.
Yep.
And everything you said, unless you got it on a little thing like this. And unless you have access to something that lets you use this. Back up your shit, folks. Because you never know. You never know what's going to happen in history.
Humans, as a rule, tend to avoid pain. this is one of those times where we might have to suffer some temporary pain, some bit of inconvenience in order to live with ourselves tomorrow. Because I certainly don't want to be in the position to look back at my life in some fascist concentration camp, work in fields or work in factories, or honestly just trying to survive, thinking back going, man, if only I did something besides just going to a protest. And the protest is good. It gives us a voice.
Yep.
Like Rob said. But we might all have to suffer a bit more of a personal inconvenience, or it might be imposed on us. And maybe ultimately that is the only thing that's going to force us to change, is if it actually all starts to really hurt us personally.
Yeah. Because scramble, one of the most inspiring things that happened over something that I never thought would be inspiring was just this little victory. And even then, it's just such a tiny little blip.
Mm-hmm.
But it made me feel something. It was and it's so stupid. It's like one of the most things that you just wouldn't think you'd associate with something important was Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
Of all fucking people, that something would cause a blip to happen, it was the Man Show person.
Yeah, I don't even like Jimmy.
Who started his career sexualizing women on Comedy Central or whatever the hell channel it was on,
mm-hmm.
and has now been this, over 20 years on AB. Like, God, that also makes me feel old. He used to talk to the people on Lost. That's how long that goes back.
Oh, jeez. Oh,
right. He's been a part of the Disney family since at least Lost, since like the beginning of that shit. And he says something that has nothing to actually do with, I don't even want to say his name because it's like, screw him. But he didn't even say anything about the person that they claim he talked about, and then gets kicked off the air. He embarrasses the administration and then gets kicked off the air.
Basically, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, everybody decided to at least threaten. They didn't threaten because they did lose money. But at least all of a sudden, there was this like blip of, oh, you're taking away somebody's free speech. No, we're going to cancel our things. I've still canceled mine. Mine is gone.
Mm-hmm.
It is over. I didn't get to finish Only Murders in the Building. Oh no. I wonder if there's going to be more Only Murders. I moved on. I moved on from it. I found my way to get Fantastic Four First Steps. I got X-Men 97. I don't need them. They need us. And when we saw that, it gave me hope for a second. We just need to keep doing things like that. Keep pushing in every way possible. Money is the first thing that hurts them. Take away their financial stuff. They'll never care. We will never make them care, but we can always make them pay.
Right.
And then eventually, we might actually get some people in power that we can force to finally do something and to start making laws that reverse some of this shit and start putting our future, your futures, whoever watches this, in better hands than the liars who want to. We have got to make our legacy that we pulled back on this stuff.
Yeah.
Or we're just in a bad apocalyptic movie, man. We're just in the lamest one. It is not going to be some cool apocalyptic movie, because let's face it, we watch it and we're like, it's kind of cool. That's kind of quirky. I wonder if I could live in that. First off, you couldn't.
No.
Okay, if you ever like played Fallout, you really want to walk around in the wasteland with a fucking pea shooter and no radiation suit? Get over it. Life's
this is not going to be a
Life's
lovely day.
It's going to be the lamest apocalypse ever. It's going to be like The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Okay?
Oh.
It's going to be the most depressing apocalyptic movie ever.
Yeah.
So this is our chance where we can keep fighting for a better legacy for everyone. We can improve as people. If we fail, we can do other things that don't bring society closer to it. If something doesn't work for you, you don't have to be a piece of shit because of it and make that your legacy. You don't have to follow blindly people because they look exactly like you. When we're all just a bunch of people trying to survive, we all just want to do our own thing. And we have to let other people do their thing too. We were capable of doing that. And then a small percentage of Americans decided that when one orange-faced turd gives you permission to be your worst self, now look at where we are. But again, it's not too late. As long as there are people out there that are breathing, there's always a chance that we can turn it around. Even if some things might be irreversible at some point, there's always hope to change it. So even if everything fails, to the people that put this on a USB, find it on a USB, and they hear somebody say something similar, because that's what happens in the movies, right? They find the thing. We got to look for the MacGuffin.
That's it. Make the MacGuffin.
Because there's information on here that'll tell them, and it'll just be me going, do better. We can do better. Snap out of it.
Yeah. And while we are in many ways talking about avoiding a legacy we don't want, as probably a little sneak preview of a upcoming episode, not sure at what point.
No, it's probably going to be next.
Yeah. We're going to start diving into the questions of what do you want to be? What kind of world would you want to make? Because I think we are also at the point where, yes, we're on the precipice of potential catastrophe. For sure. We may be even already slipping over the edge. But we also have, I think, at this point, a capacity for true change, for a way to rewrite, to refocus what we as a society, what we as humanity want our legacy to be. And that's a bigger discussion that we will be saving to another time. But I think it's important to, again, not just think about the legacy that we don't want, but also start to think about, well, if you could have any legacy you want, what would it be?
Absolutely. And I think that about covers it for today's episode of the podcast. I feel good, even if we said a lot of terrible things.
It was a nice discussion. Again, we're waving up and we're looking at the bigger issues here. And I think these are the important things that we do have to start to weigh and discuss. And one thing you definitely want to be sure to do is to hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the notifications. We should probably do this at the beginning of our video and not at the end. But at the very least, if you did enjoy these discussions and are looking forward to hearing more from us, that is the way that you do it.
Well, what I'll do is I'll just I'll take the video and I'll put it through my editing software and add a like and subscribe thing at the beginning, since we forget to do that. It's always a go-to thing, is editing. The magic of editing. You might even be like, well, why didn't you just edit this down to 10 minutes? But where'd be the fun of that?
Yeah.
So anyway, so that'll be where we end it for today, folks. So keep an eye out on the channel for more stuff like this. If you want to hear what we have to say about these topics, hit the bell, subscribe, like, share the video. Yes. I think that's an underrated thing that people don't say enough, is share this video with somebody who's like, you know who might want to hear this? Yakov Smirnov. I don't know.
And if there are things that you want us to talk about, if there's something on your mind that you want to bring up, throw those down in the comment section below,
please
man.
put all your thoughts and dreams in the comment section. We will answer them. That's another thing about our channel. I answer every respectful comment.
Yeah, there you go. So he's got what he's talking about there.
So I'm Rob from Smirking Gun.
And I'm D from D's Reviews.
And I guess get ready for an outro where we will put things that you can find. See, I'm not pointing now. I shouldn't be pointing now because they're not actually there yet.
Yes.
But look in these corners for things you can click on and enjoy or cry at. Whatever your flavor is. So have a great one. And we'll see you on the next video. Bye.